It's bourbonblog.com live, coming to you on a Thursday night with my good friend, actor Will Swenson. We're going to try some whiskey together and just have a nice little chat here and see how much whiskey we can drink, right, Will?
That's the goal for the night. It's quantity tonight. It's all about quantity. How much we can.
That's right, quantity and some good quality. It's going to be both. We've drank some whiskey in person together. We've been enjoying some whiskey from afar, as many have, but. Will Swenson, you may know him from Netflix's Sabrina, a lot of movies. I was just saying, I just watched The Kitchen this past weekend, and of course, many roles on Broadway. What's been happening your way since we last chatted, Will?
Man, a whole lot of sitting on my couch, Tom. Actors have it rough, dude. It's a bummer because, for theater actors, which I predominantly do, the vast majority of our profession relies on big groups coming together from diverse places and sitting in enclosed spaces together for hours at a time. And that's like the last thing we can do. So the theater's on a real big pause. So that's a bummer. Yeah. TV and film are starting to figure out kind of how to come back. It'll be interesting as TV and film start to get back into making things. You'll notice similar groupings and styles of film, because the way to make it happen is to have small groups of cast and small groups of crew and controllable environments. So you'll see almost exclusively things shot. If it's with groups, it'll all be in studios, and if it's outside, it'll be with very few people. So I imagine that coming up, the future of our industry for the next foreseeable year or so, once it starts going again, will be very small stuff, which is cool. It's forcing people to think outside the box, and blockbusters can be on hold for a minute, and we'll do some deep 4-person dramas, and it'll be cool.
So we'll see smaller groups. There'll be scenes with smaller numbers of people.
Yeah, almost certainly. I mean, the bigger studios, like the networks and stuff, they're figuring out ways to keep their shows. But I think in storylines, they'll probably isolate their storylines a bit so that, the lovers kind of, it'll be those 2 or 3 people in a household. And so that they're kind of in the same coronavirus bubble. And then the people at the office will kind of go into their bubble. And I think you'll rarely see them interact for the first little bit. And then, there's going to be all kinds of protocols about testing every day when they go into the studio and keeping the crew away from the actors, etc. Just all kinds of safety protocols to try to do our work, but keep it safe at the same time.
Does that mean we might even see some films like Castaway, where it's just one guy on an island coming back?
I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see a lot of kind of one-handers, two-handers, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Would you like to be, if you were stuck on an island and you were that guy, what would you be doing if in your dream Will Swenson solo film?
Well, as long as I could be there with a good bottle and a volleyball. Everyone needs a volleyball, and then I'd be all right. I keep saying, like, if I was on a desert island with a volleyball and a bottle of whiskey, I'd be thrilled if it was my choice. And I keep saying that about this time. Is like, if someone told me that I had to take a year off of my job, that I would choose to take a year off of my job and sit at home and I would garden and make things out of the trees that have fallen. I'm like growing a beard and literally using my chainsaw to be a lumberjack. If that was my choice, I'd be thrilled, Tom. I'd be so happy to just be like, oh, this is bliss. The weather's been amazing, and we're just isolated. We kind of live in the woods, and it would be amazing. But because it's enforced and because it's not our choice, and because there's sort of no end in sight,
right?
It's a huge anxiety-ridden mess. But
if only there was that end in sight. But the beards, I haven't quite done since I last saw you a few months ago on camera. I haven't done the same thing, though. Maybe you'll inspire me to.
I've never done this in my life. As an actor, you're always forced to have the haircut that they want or the facial hair that they want for whatever project you're working on. So generally, you know, unless a beardy kind of motorcycle dude is your character that you're the go-to for a lot, you never have time to grow out your beard, rarely your hair. So out of partial laziness and partial curiosity, I grew this thing out. And now I'm starting to get claustrophobic, and it's like I've got a marmot stapled to my chin or something. I can't stop touching it either. It's very, very...
The No Shave November came early. That's And it lasted a while. No, it's good, but you're going to keep it for at least till Halloween then.
I'm going to keep it until Halloween because my daughter wants me to be Braidbeard the pirate. We have this book, this children's book called How I Became a Pirate, and the main pirate is named Braidbeard, and she wants me to be Braidbeard for Halloween. So hopefully it'll get long enough where I can start to braid it. It's not quite Johnny Depp yet, but I got 2 months, so maybe I'll get another inch and then I can braid it. But I'm going to be a pirate, but she's changed her mind and she wants to be a butterfly princess now. So it'll be Braidbeard the pirate and a butterfly princess.
I like it. It'll be a good sign. But I just realized I'm having a glass of whiskey and I need to offer you one virtually because I've had these and I love them, but we're going to virtually unbox them, unbox, unwrap the whiskeys with you.
I'm very excited.
You know what? Let's go ahead and I got to see a question coming through for you, but I'll put that up on the screen. But
brilliant.
Before we get started, so you'll have a drink in hand too with the single malt.
You want to start with the single malt?
Yeah, let's start with the single malt from Town Branch. This is the newest product that they're doing. This lovely Town Branch 7-year-old. They just released this past year. They've been aging it for 7 years, and rarely with American single malts do we see. There's some great single malts out there, 4 years old, 5 years old. There's not too many that are 7 and that are coming out at 7. And this one's...
Tell me about American single malt because it seems like there hardly are any, and I'm trying to think of them, and I'm not really super aware of them. But I'm sort of a middle-educated whiskey drinker. Yeah,
no, it's all right. So a good question, Will. So they're using malted barley, much like a Scotch would in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
They're aging it much like they do bourbon. A lot of these will be used barrels typically. Sometimes they'll do it in new barrels. It just all depends.
Do we know if they've used new barrels for this or aged?
I believe it's used. Good question. I think these are used bourbon barrels. I'll have to double check.
If it's oakier than normal, would you say new?
Right, exactly, because it's a little lighter. I'm pretty sure it's used barrels. We've included this whiskey in some of our whiskey tastings this year before we had to come back home and do the whiskey tastings on camera. But yeah, let's give it a nose. And as we give it a nose, I am also, before I forget, definitely ask Will any questions you have for him down below. Any questions about any of his productions, about theater or film in general. Will Coyle wants to know what it was like acting opposite is it Ramin?
Ramin Karimloo. Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. At that point, Ramin had this beard. Or was it fake? No, he had a beard. My memory is so bad. It was amazing acting opposite Ramin. If you don't know Ramin, you came and saw Les Mis, Tom. Right?
Yes, I did. Yes, yes.
So you saw Ramin. He's like this incredibly muscly, incredibly talented, incredibly voiced dude. Really famous across the pond in London, a big West End star, and now a TV star. But his voice is just incredible. Like normally, you're either a baritone or a tenor, and baritones have they have the resonance, and tenors have those beautiful floaty notes. I'm a baritone. Ramin he is a tenor who sounds like a baritone. It's as if you took all the weight and resonance of a baritone and like put it up into the high notes. So usually when the high notes come, they're lovely and they're floaty, but they're a little thinner. Ramin has all of this heft and strength that he somehow is able to get up into those high notes. And Jean Valjean is a super high roll. So it's just this incredible thing to hear him sing. Super great guy. We got along super great. We both have 2 boys. And so we bonded over our kids and it's an amazing show, and we had a ball. Ramin is a great guy, and we're still in contact.
Cool.
He also enjoys a good whiskey.
He enjoys a good whiskey too. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen, and I remember coming back and bringing you some whiskey backstage. You always have a good little whiskey selection in your
little collection at the
room. Yeah, which helps. Does it ever help before the show, or usually you save it for after? Does it open up anything?
Before is dangerous, Tom. You got to remember all those words. But funny enough, a lot of people, and I don't entirely disagree, say that that whiskey can loosen up your voice a little bit, just kind of warm it up and relax the chords a little bit, just a little. As
you eventually transition back to
loosen it up.
Being on the stage, you may be so.
I mean, yeah, I haven't sung a note in like
maybe really needing that whiskey. It could happen. Well, and just because you've been enjoying it at home. So, well, let's enjoy one now. This is the first time Will's tried the Town Branch single malt, and let's give it a nose and a taste and see what you think, Will.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I like to me. It's first thing I thought was cappuccino.
There is kind of a coffee note, isn't there? Kind of a nice, kind of honeyed, creamy cappuccino. You're right.
Sure. Creamy. Yep.
Yeah, there's some definite cappuccino notes on this. Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah.
That single malt really shines through, I think, on this one with nice sugars, some really good age. It's just, it's deep. I mean, it has some real depth to it.
Ooh, yeah. It's just the right amount of smoky for me. Like I'm not like a Ardbeg Lafroig kind of guy, Prairie guy, but a little bit is just right. That's nice.
Yeah.
And this is it's creamy and super. You can sure get the malt.
Yeah, that malt's there, but not. I think some American single malts and some single malts in general, that malt is almost too pronounced. This malt is kind of softened. The note of cappuccino is one that I think is very well spotted. I don't think that's one.
No, it's like vanilla ice cream with Whoppers in it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Kind of vanilla. It hits a lot of places. This is they've already won some awards, and this is one I'm a real big fan of. And I'm
nice. Do they have different single malts? Do you have any that like they've aged differently or longer? But this is their main one.
This is their main one. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of single barrels that are out there, barrel and bottle. I'll have to put the link up down below. That's a single barrel. Bottling company did one, I believe, at 10 years old, and that had been finished in sherry. And that was pretty tough to find. And that one was also incredible with the same juice, as we call it. But no, I think we'll see more and more releases from them. I think they have a few other things planned on with this Kentucky single malt. But truly, I think there's some really great American single malts out there. It's a really growing category. But to me, this is one of the best I've had, I think. And I like the cappuccino note. It has kind of that coffee texture and flavor.
Yeah. Answer me again about other American single malts.
Yes. Yeah. So we had one a few weeks ago. Stranahan's is another one from Colorado. You ever had Stranahan's?
Yeah.
That's another one. They did a lot in craft early on. Another one that I really enjoy is Copper Fox from Virginia. They do some interesting things on smoking their single malt with apple and cherry wood.
Ooh, fun.
There's more and more distilleries that are doing a malt. Breckenridge Distillery has one as well that's very limited production. So there's several out there. I think it's a category we will see more often. And someone, I think maybe Jennifer, maybe watching from New York, or wants to know what your favorite bourbon bar in NYC is.
Oh man, that's a good question. There's a few. There's well, honestly, that place right on Times Square. It seems like a cheesy location because it's right on Times Square, but it's called is it called the Rum House? Which is
I think we went there. I think that was our last stop. One of the last times I saw that place. It's a good place.
No, because it's close and convenient for my work area. It's a nice spot. Funny that it's called the Rum House, but a great little old-fashioned bar to drink in, and they know their stuff. I just did an awesome whiskey tasting downtown somewhere, and why am I blanking on it?
It's all right.
I want to look it up in my Google Maps because I'm sure I have it saved.
There are some great ones. We went to I know that one place that had the Macallan that night too was pretty stellar too. I'm forgetting. That was a speakeasy in a hotel, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was at the Mandarin. That was that.
Oh yeah, that was nice, wasn't it? That was
yeah. No, but it was great. We had to hike through the kitchen to get there, and it was kind of hidden in the middle of the kitchen. That was great.
Yeah, that was cool. But the Rum House, a great place, and also great and accessible for the theater district. What was the last thing you were doing before the pandemic hit? What was the last thing you were doing as far as theater and film?
I was in rehearsals for a show called Assassins. It's a Stephen Sondheim musical. an imagination of if all of the people who had tried to assassinate American presidents kind of got together in a room and sort of they all kind of have their moment and tell their story, and they all sort of culminate at the end to there's kind of no time through it, but at the end they sort of convince good grief, why am I spacing? Not John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth is the lead. The gentleman who shot John F. Kennedy. I seem incredibly uneducated at the moment because I'm blanking his Lee Harvey Oswald. They convinced Lee Harvey Oswald to shoot John F. Kennedy.
Cool. And that one would that still be happening, I guess, sometime in the
that's the plan. I mean, we had like a little cast Zoom meeting the other day, and the theater company said, yeah, we still want to do this. You know, right now the protocols in the city are hopeful that we can start rehearsals for whatever kind of February, March-ish, and maybe open things again in the spring. So it will have been at least a full year if that happens, if we're able to, move forward. It's just the trick is we need rooms full of people from all over the place, and it's just until people feel safe in groups, it's going to be a really rough climb out of this hole. It's tough.
What is it? I mean, whether it's yourself or other actors who obviously still can't really get out there and act. Are you doing auditions on camera, or what does it look like for you?
Not really. Everything's on hold right now. Film and TV are kind of starting to start back up, but I think to start, they're going with people that they know, and so they're just kind of, as an actor, often you have this thing called a reel, and it's your reel of work. So like, when you do a job, this is my clip from this show, and this is my clip from this show. So you just send in basically your resume via video for everybody and just say, here's my work. If you think I would work for this project, great. And then, they will offer stuff. But right now there's little to no shooting in the States. There's a little bit of shooting starting up in Canada, but only if you are okay with going up there and sequestering yourself for 2 weeks to make sure that you're not sick, and then staying there for the duration of the shooting, which, can be 6 to 8 months or something. And I have a family. I've got 4 kids and and a wife who's probably going to start back up shooting a TV show, hopefully by January or February. Right. So, I can't abandon my family. So for me, right now, it would just be shows that can kind of shoot in New York, and hopefully my stage show can start again. But there's just kind of the beginnings, the sparks of things, trying to figure out how to make it work again. Right.
No, that makes sense.
I mean, there's going to be some reimagining of how we do this theater thing. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
And as far as the live theater, what are you hearing it's going to look like as far as the conversations that are being had now?
Well, they're certainly going to take cleaning theaters a little more seriously, like ventilation systems. It's always funny when you come to Broadway for the first time because you've heard about Broadway being, the pinnacle of the business. And then you walk through the door and you forget and you go, oh, right. Broadway's been here for, 150 years. The buildings have often, the buildings are 100 plus years old. So sometimes it's tough to keep those, clean and polished and not little petri dishes of disease. So I think a lot of theaters will have to refurbish how they think about ventilation and multi-touched surfaces and antibacterial, wipes here and there. And then probably touchless ticketing. I think it'll probably all go to scanners, and they're even talking about kind of staggering the times that you're allowed to arrive at the theater. If the show's at 8, your ticket is you need to arrive at 7:30, and then this group is allowed to arrive at 7:40 and 7:50, just to space everybody out and not have a bunch of clusters of people. So there's that. I mean, heaven forbid we do something with a big plexiglass screen in front of us, and it sort of defeats the purpose of theater. I mean, I think the reason that I love it and the reason that a vast majority of actors love doing theater is that intangible energy between the audience and the actors, and it'd be tough and tricky and frustrating to put some kind of a barrier there to just block that. And man, I hope we can get back to where we were, where it's been.
Yeah, but for now, For now, a few things online. I've been hearing about the virtual theater festival Playbill's having. I know there's a few things like that, and so hopefully we can get back more.
Yeah, some little things have happened. Like there's some great projects. There's a project called the 24-hour plays, and typically they've always held one or two events throughout the year where they would invite like 20 actors and 20 writers, and they'd all get together and on one night, and they'd write these plays, and the next day they would memorize them and perform them that night for a packed house and raise a lot of money for a charity. So they've sort of parlayed that idea virtually, and they do the same idea. They invite 20 writers and 20 actors. They're just doing it from their homes. Excuse me. So you would just get sent a monologue in the morning, and you're like, all right, I got to shoot this thing, and I got to turn it in, and then we'll broadcast it that night. So they've done a succession of those, and that's been a fun way to stay creative. There was also a little film festival recently for the Black Lives Matter movement, and I got asked to do a short film, which ended up being pretty funny. It felt a lot like a Key and Peele sketch. If you've seen the Scream movies, you know the dude in the mask, and he's like,
Yep.
Yeah, to Drew Barrymore, do you like scary movies? And so I was that guy, and I called this black dude, and he's like, who is this? And I'm like, do you like scary movies? And I'm like, no, really scary. I said, what's your favorite scary movie? He goes, Fruitville Station. And I'm like, no, scary. He's like, you don't think Fruitville's scary? And I'm like, oh no, to some people it's scary. He's like, why wouldn't you think it's scary? Anyway, it turns into this racial discussion. I'm like, oh no, I'm not racist. And he's like, you were gonna kill me because I'm black. No, I'm not. I just all my victims have been white until now, and I felt like I should diversify my killings. And anyway, it was a silly thing. Ours, I think, was the only comedy in the festival, but some beautiful little short films, helping to kind of pass along the mentality and the importance of the moment to try to improve and recognize where we are in our country right now, and how we can improve on that, and try to make it a better place for everyone.
Absolutely. Is that up someplace where it's viewed, or is that one that we just screened at the online festival was on?
I think they've taken it down because it was sort of through the Screen Actors Guild. But let me look it up and see if there's a place we can. It might be on YouTube.
Yeah, certainly. And again, everybody who's watching now, thanks for watching. It's Bourbon Blog Live. We're talking with actor Will Swenson. Make sure you bookmark bourbonblog.com/live. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you're following us from, and we appreciate everybody watching. And also our sponsor, Independent Stave Company, for the very best barrels. Appreciate their sponsorship, and I'm gonna I think since we're trying these whiskeys, we often talk about pairings. We pair a whiskey with a barbecue, or whiskey with cheese, or a cigar, as we do on our Cigar Saturdays. We do every Saturday here on Bourbon Blog Live. I think maybe the question for you is, if you were going to pair this single malt with a production or a film that you had done, that you've been involved in, what would you pair it with?
That's a super great question. Wow, let's see. It's sort of smoky and classy and European. I guess this would be a Les Mis. I guess I could see this being a Les Mis whiskey. Although Javert, certainly, he didn't drink at all. No, that's a good question. But sort of a well-centered, smoky, malty single malt. I much more play the bourbon guy than the single malt guy. That's a good question. Although that guy in the kitchen, he probably drank a lot of Malibu, to be honest.
I was going to say, as I watched that, you're out next to the bar a lot of the time, right? I mean, you get to pour the drinks, and you're standing next to the bar. I'm thinking, Will looks very comfortable there.
That's true, right. And I did pour those girls some whiskeys, didn't I?
You did. Now, did you guys ever pour real? I'm sure it was. Were you pouring them real whiskey to make it more real, or was it?
We were at a real bar when we shot that, so they probably were real whiskeys.
They might have been real whiskeys.
I mean, you never drink on set because you do it 100 times, and you'd be drunk real fast if you actually drank it.
Yeah, to keep doing that. No, and I noticed in that film too a lot of old labels too. So these were labels that they had thought through. They looked like really old labels from the 70s. This took place in the 70s, right? This film.
Yeah.
And it's a true story.
Based on a true story, yeah. But yeah, I think I remember I served Melissa McCarthy Irish whiskey.
I think she asked for a whiskey.
Of course, the Irish girl takes the whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that? I really enjoyed that film. What was that like for you? Working with some
Oh man, I got to work with some super cool girls. It was Melissa McCarthy and Tiffany Haddish and Elizabeth Moss, and they were really the main people that I had my scenes with and spent my time with. I mean, I think I only had maybe 5 or 6 days on that film, and my part was this big. Right. But one day we were just all in a car, just driving all over the place, trying to get shots of me driving them across the Brooklyn Bridge and all that kind of stuff. So you get to know people pretty fast when you're cooped up in a car for the whole day. And it was ungodly hot, so we'd have to stop, and they'd pump air conditioning into the car.
Well, now what kind of car? That was a really old car. What was it again?
Yeah, no idea. It was gigantic, like one of those big old kind of Lincoln Continental
car,
7 feet long cars.
A little, and you played you were like a real badass kind of.
I was like an Italian mobster dude. Yeah. I was like very John Travolta 70s. My collar with me here and like gold chains and stuff.
Serious 70s shit. And a really serious part from. I mean, we wanted to laugh in some parts of it because it was Melissa, but really a serious role for her. I mean, it was.
With Tiffany as well. Like they cast 2 great comedians in a drama, so half the time you're watching it going, "Am I supposed to be laughing? Am I supposed to be laughing?"
Or being murdered right and left, and I'm thinking at some point it has to be. It was funny in parts. It was good. Yeah.
Tone maybe wasn't the most strong suit of that movie, but it turned out all right. Okay.
Do you find that sometimes, whether it's film or theater, if you're used to watching someone either serious or comical, and they go into a different role, you have this expectation? It's almost like if I tell you this whiskey comes from a distiller that you love, you're already going to think of that thing about it. It's that predisposition. Do you find that happens? And as far as an actor, how do you deal with that?
For sure, man. There's absolutely always a preconceived idea about what a show's supposed to be, what an actor's supposed to be. And it's a tricky thing. Like there's a couple of directions you can go as an actor if you're trying to kind of build your career or your world. You can become like, I'm the guy that does this. And then you always play, the gangster or the villain or, the creepy guy or the leading man or whatever. And that's great because, if you find your niche and you do it well, then that's great. It's tricky because it can get a little boring because you keep doing the same thing all the time. So the other way you can go is to try to super diversify and like, all right, last time I played type A, this time I really want to play type B. And then somebody's like, oh, I saw you do type A. Have you do that? And you're like, actually, I want to try type C. And everyone's like, you can't do that. And then hopefully you do it well. And then next time you try type D and just try to, diversify and be seen as somebody who has range and that's where you get your Meryl Streeps kind of that can just kind of do any character, any accent, and and it's just super well rounded. Yeah,
no, that's really cool. But as far as your acting career, you're cast all over the board. It seems. I mean, as far as
I've tried.
Guys.
It's tricky. I mean, it's tricky, but I tried. I mean, my big breakout role was in Hair, and I played this crazy hippie, and so immediately I got all these offers to like be the crazy rocker, kind of naked dude, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So the next thing I did was Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and I played a drag queen, and so that was kind of another angle, and then I was like kind of offered a lot of roles similar to that one. So then the next thing I did, time flies when you're having fun, but was Les Mis, and that was, hopefully a much more, solid and stern and far away from either of those kind of characters. So you try, I'm trying. But hopefully I've been able to do some different stuff, and it's just sure a lot more fun, I hate getting thought of as that guy that only does one thing. And
right.
And to an extent, musical people, we get pigeonholed as guys who can only sing but can't act. So it's a trick when you're known as a musical person to get cast in plays and movies and TV where there's no music, they're like, oh, well, he's a musical actor. You're like, yeah, but there's also that acting part in there. Yes, we break into song, but there's the 80% of the show where we're still just doing a play.
Right.
And people tend to forget that, particularly casting directors. But I've been pretty lucky. I've been able to, I think I do, half and half. I do about half film, TV, and straight plays, and half musicals, and I've been able to bounce around a little bit, playing different parts, and I like it. Hopefully, I'll get to do it again someday.
It'll happen. It'll happen someday. Until then, he has whiskey, he has a couch, and he has a beard that it's going to keep growing.
A big beard. I'm gonna try to get my beard an agent and just see if we can both start doing something. More importantly, I think the more important question is, like, do you need an assistant? Because I'm pretty sure you have the dream job. And I mean, I live in New York. I've got contact to a lot of interesting people and a lot of bourbon bars. So I need you to consider having an assistant for your enterprises. And I'm willing to learn. I work hard, and I'm unemployed. So just putting it out there.
I need to send you to some bars and some distilleries on my behalf. I'd love to.
Yes, please.
That would be a good plan. You have to know that you may have to handle quite a bit of whiskey, but I know you can. I know you're up for the challenge.
Okay. I'll do my best.
I think I remember you, and is there some musical or theater that was happening right before the pandemic that was everybody drink something and then perform Shakespeare or something like that?
Oh yeah, Drunk Shakespeare.
What's it called again?
It's called Drunk Shakespeare. Yeah, it's a funny thing. I think it started in London. Wait, I don't know. It's definitely been over there. I don't know where it started, but it's definitely here as well. It's this crazy thing where a group of actors, probably 6 or 7 actors, learn a Shakespeare play.
Right.
Everybody learns their parts. And then once a week, they trade off with one of the actors just getting crazy drunk before the show.
Just one of them.
Just one of them, so that everybody's livers don't explode by having to drink too much. And everybody, and so this one actor is trying to desperately remember their Shakespeare lines, and which I imagine would be pretty tricky. Shakespeare's really tricky, dead cold sober. And the rest of the cast is trying to cover for them and make it make sense with this major.
And they actually do get drunk.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and it's like they do a fun drinking thing with the audience where they're kind of serving drinks, and then the actor who's been drinking continues to drink through the show. And, they've got it dialed in so that it's safe and everything. But it's very funny just trying to watch somebody desperately try to remember very difficult language and watch the actors around them sort of cover for them as they mess it up, and because often they'll jump into a scene like in the third act and we just started the show, and it's very silly.
I feel like I've seen that situation a number of times at events and parties, but I've not actually really seen it as far as real theater goes. And they always use a different character that gets drunk. Is it they switch it around?
Yeah, they trade off.
They trade off.
Yeah.
Is that something you would try? You might try that as well.
I mean, why not? I'm unemployed. It all sounds pretty good right now.
Especially if whiskey's involved. Let's unbox or unbottle, as we say. When you're ready. No rush, by the way. We don't want you. Well, we're making sure you drink enough so that you have to remember lines. That's what we're doing.
I got nothing to remember.
I'll tell you what we're going to. Again, it's the Town Branch. It's their Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. And this one is aged between 4 and 6 years, a little darker in color. You're going to see as you hold the two bottles up, both beautiful. And of course, color means a little bit in it. This is a bourbon, so it's went into a new charred oak barrel. So gets a little darker there. And this is going to come in right at 90 proof, 45% alcohol. And give this a try here with my buddy Will Swenson. We'll see how we like the bourbon whiskey. We went from single malt, and now we're on to bourbon. You're quite a bourbon fan. There's a lot of bourbons that you really enjoy, aren't there?
Yeah, bourbon's my go-to. That's my jam. I like it a lot. First of all, I got to say the color on this is super cool.
It is really nice dark color.
Yeah, super copper. And also I got to say this bottle is badass.
It's great to be able to hold that this big.
No, it's just like so sturdy and cool. I feel like I'm either in a No, I'm not in a Pioneer bar. I'm in like a speakeasy in the 20s,
Yeah, that's what it feels
yeah.
like. It's tough.
No, it's just substantial. I just like
Yeah.
want to keep it and fill it up with sand. I don't know.
It could work. It could work.
Flowers. Cool. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Super, super oaky, right?
A lot of oak, yeah. A lot of really nice oak. 4 to 6 years old, about usually averages about 4.5, so little more than a lot of the 4-year-old bourbons, and it's some nice depth to that with that oak, with the
right, like this is like a Heath bar.
yes, yeah, Heath bar kind of chocolatey notes, very corn forward, very almost luscious, has that kind of thick luscious note.
Yep, and a little pepper, but not like black pepper. Another like spice, but not black pepper.
Kind of like a pepper from like a pepper, like a jalapeno, or like that kind of.
No, I'm thinking like cooking peppers. Like I don't know their fancy names, but like like cayenne, kind of cardamom, whatever those kind of
yes
peppers are.
Really, and some nice earth to this too. Just really nice earthy notes, earthy, desserty, kind of that caramel note all the way through.
The caramel all the way for sure.
The caramel is serious on this. They do this one. They also do one that's a limited edition and they have a rye as well. They have a Pierce Lyons Reserve, and they actually have, on occasion, they finish this one in sherry cask, which is quite nice.
Oh yeah.
This by itself, great by itself, really great in a cocktail, and just really amazing all the way around.
It seems like the sherry cask thing has really caught on.
Yes.
In your opinion, who kind of recently started that and popularized that so that everyone else was like, "Ooh, we got to do that"?
There were a number of distilleries in the early days of craft distilling. I know the one that really made it popular with the port wine barrel finish was Angel's Envy.
Angel's Envy, I was going to say.
About 10, well, it was actually, they just celebrated their 10-year anniversary about a week and a half ago.
I saw your interview the other night with
thank you. So the Angel's Envy really did that. More and more have followed suit. Everything from large distilleries to small distilleries. I think a lot of red wine casks, anywhere from Bordeaux. Jefferson's does some nice. Have one called Pichon Baron, which is the name of a winery in Bordeaux. That's beautiful. There's some with used absinthe barrels that are out there. I actually have one not too far away from me. Our buddies at Peerless teamed up with Copper and Kings in Louisville that make an absinthe, and they finished their rye whiskey in an absinthe barrel, which was quite nice. So a lot of
like an apple brandy as well, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, the apple brandy still. Have you had the apple brandy?
I haven't, and I saw that you had it. And I was like, oh, I'm always looking for a good apple brandy.
It's really nice.
There's one up in my neck of the woods, upstate New York, that's called Black Dirt, and they have the best apple brandy. I love it, and it's hard to find, but now and then I grab it.
I remember. I believe I've had some of this Black Dirt. And so many great spirits. A few of your favorite whiskey spirits that are New York based. Any favorites?
I mean, Kings County is a great go-to.
Yeah,
such cool stuff, creative stuff. Great tasting room as well. And then Black Dirt is cool. They also make like the Doc's Hard Cider. If you go to the tasting room, they also make a lot of cool original beers and stuff. But they make a great bourbon. But my favorite is their apple brandy. Super yummy.
That sounds really nice. The brandies are good. I think brandies are making brandies, rums, other brown spirits are really making a big comeback. Of course, we love the whiskeys. And okay, so same question. If you had to think of a character, you could do a character as well, or part, or even a production. What would you pair with the bourbon?
With the bourbon.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. I mean, first thing that comes to mind, because it's more recent in my mind, is the dude that I played on Sabrina. His name was Carcosa, and he was the leader of the carnival.
Yeah.
Yeah, because bourbon seems like a good carnival evil ringleader kind of kind of a drink. I'll go with that. I'm sticking with it.
Very nice. So it'd be Sabrina. Very nice. How was that? Obviously, a very popular Netflix show. How was it working on Sabrina?
That was a ball. Super fun. Great crew and a great cast, and it's shot in Vancouver. So that was a lot of fun. They just found out they didn't get renewed. There are many casualties in the TV world from this pandemic. And that's one that definitely would have been renewed had it not been for this awful pause. And I think they had to Netflix and the producers kind of had to choose a couple of shows. And I think, in that same basket was Riverdale, which is a slightly more of a hit. And so they were like, all right, we got to choose Riverdale. But it was a ball. Super, super fun and melodramatic, sort of almost operatic show. And which was my wheelhouse. I mean, it was very theatrical, and I got to kind of do my theatrical thing. So it was fun, and it's always fun to play a bad guy. I like to choose a bad guy over a good guy any day of the week.
And this was a really evil bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, my character kind of had two facets to him. I ended up being the pagan god Pan, so I could turn myself into a goat, half goat, half man. I had to do this crazy prosthetics with these big yellow eyes and horns, and it was crazy. It took 2 hours to get into it, but yeah, I had all kinds of mystical powers, Tom, and I wanted to come in and I wanted to kill all the witches on the Sabrina show so that I could have their hallowed ground and grow the Green Man and rejuvenate my people again. And it was pretty involved. It was pretty intense, man.
And he became a goat. That's
I was the goat boy. I was.
No, a great show, and sorry to hear that they hadn't been renewed. But really great show, and had what was it? 4 seasons? How many seasons was it?
4 parts, yeah.
4 parts, yeah. 4 seasons. Any as that had the witch theme? Were there any stories of any ghost sightings, anything like that came out of the production? Was there anything that happened like that?
I'm sure. I mean, I was only there for on and off for 3 or 4 months, but they were a fun crew. They had a lot of fun with kind of jokingly subscribing to the occult. When it was somebody's birthday, instead of singing "Happy Birthday," they kind of they had this. I think they said "Hail Satan." I think some people took issue with that. At any rate, there was fun. It was fun. They had a baseball team, and everyone's number was like 666, and it was having silly fun with the occults. But it was a good show and a really really nice group and a great group of creatives. That was fun. Excellent. Netflix is great. I just finished. I didn't just finish, but the last thing I finished, film and TV wise, was another Netflix show, which hasn't finished shooting. I was involved in like 6 episodes, I think, and the season is like 10 episodes, and I think they got 8.5 done before the COVID hit. Unfortunately, some of it takes place. Not unfortunately, but some of it takes place in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and so we shot all the stuff in New York, which was the majority of the show, and then they went to shoot like 1 or 2 episodes roughly in Tel Aviv, and just as the pandemic hit. So not enough to be able to release the season. So it's sort of, on hold until they can finish the last episode and a half or whatever. Anyway, that's called Hit and Run, and it's kind of a Homeland feel, kind of a TV show.
When it comes to these shows now on Netflix, like these, as far as the pandemic, as far as what's happened, do you think we will see more casualties of this? I guess the pros and the cons. I mean, obviously, I'm not sure if there's any pros, but how will it affect? New series we'll see? I mean, what do you think?
Oh man,
I can hear you. I think he may be frozen.
Dang it!
There he is. There you are. There you are.
I should have plugged in, Tom.
You were turning into a goat for a moment, and now you're back.
I'm usually pretty confident with my bandwidth, but probably just me overcompensating. I guess what we'll see change-wise is in development. I think they'll just have to foresee, like, we could have these complications, and we're going to write, with those potential but hopefully we'll just recover, and what'll come out of it is creativity. The mother of invention is what is it? Limitations is the mother of invention. Is that what it is?
Right. That's right.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope we get back to full throttle at some point.
Yeah. Well, we hope so for you too, and we know that Broadway, at least for now, Broadway is. We won't see any more for the rest of the year. That's what they're still saying, right?
We can start rehearsing again in January and get back in the spring.
Right. Start rehearsing again in January and get back in the spring is what you're looking at.
Hopefully, yeah.
Very good. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm great.
Oh, no, that's fine. They cut it out, but it cut out for a moment. But
I can tell from my end, and I apologize. I should.
No worries, man. It's so great to have you here on Bourbon Blog Live. We appreciate. It's always been fun to drink whiskey with you in New York and come see your shows, and it's a pleasure to have you here on Bourbon Blog Live. And what'd you think? Single malt, bourbon. Any other thoughts? Any other tasting notes you're picking up from these?
I think they're both terrific in different ways. I've spent a bit of time in London, and I always kind of, when I'm over there, I'll drink all the scotch in the world. And,
yes. Oh yeah.
Try to get involved in that, and then I get home and I'm like, oh, I'm bourbon guy again. So it's nice to get back to something a little, more scotch. I dig that. I think of the two, I picked the bourbon just because I'm kind of a bourbon guy. But these are both super great. I've seen Town Branch on the shelves.
Good stuff. No, man, it's great to have you here on Bourbon Blog Live. Will Swenson, actor, it's such a good friend. So glad that you could join us for a little while tonight here, and stay well, stay safe. Any other thoughts on what's been happening in the world as far as you look forward, as far as what it may mean for theater going forward, or for you?
I mean, it's an uncertain. I wish that our country was in a better spot. It's certainly a time to examine our inner selves and try to behave and vote in a way that I certainly hope that everybody's hunkered down and being safe and man, it's a tough time. It's a tough time, and hopefully we'll all emerge on the other side better as a people and as a country and as individuals. And it's a tough learning curve, but we're getting there, and a little bit of whiskey never hurt anybody.
I completely agree. A little bit of whiskey, have another pour of that. Whiskey, hopefully it'll help us all out, and we'll continue to bring you more great stories and guests, just like Will Swenson, tasting some great whiskeys on Bourbon Blog Live. We're gonna, wherever you've been watching this, we're gonna keep this up permanently, and we are also gonna be putting it, if you haven't already subscribed to my podcast channel, Anchor FM/Bourbon Blog, subscribe to my podcast. That way you can listen to this and many more whiskey podcasts. That way you can listen to us. If you want to watch us and listen to us, or just listen to us, you have your options. We'll give them options, Will. Sometimes it's listening. Have you ever noticed that sometimes just listening, you can nose the whiskey, you can taste it, or you can listen to the whiskey. You can.
I've never tried that. I'm getting 70s soft rock
Little crack in the ocean wave there against the 70s soft rock.
And
He's still listening to the whiskey. There you are. There you are again. Cheers, Will. Thanks to everyone watching us tonight on Bourbon Blog Live. All those tasting with us. We'll give a special shout out to our buddy Peter. I know Peter was tasting along. So, Peter, thanks for tasting those whiskeys with Will and I. Cheers. Thanks so much, Will, for joining us, man. It's great
Thank you, Tom. Apologies for the bandwidth.
Oh, no, it's okay. We actually got a really good, nice freeze frame kind of shot of you doing this. That was actually made it ready